You know, some cities are just built, and others kind of evolve over time. But Edinburgh feels like it was forged. First by fire and ice, literally, and then completely reinvented by the people living there. So today, we're going to dive into the story of a city that is all about transformation, from its absolutely dramatic beginnings to the huge challenges it's staring down right now.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the wild geology that created this amazing natural fortress. Then, we'll see how that fortress became a seriously overcrowded medieval trap. After that, we'll get into the brilliant, radical plan that saved it, creating a city of two halves. And finally, we'll look at the modern crisis that's forcing Edinburgh to change itself all over again.
To really get Edinburgh, you have to start with the ground right under your feet. Its whole story, its shape, everything was basically decided by these violent geological events that happened hundreds of millions of years ago. It's pretty wild. So, Edinburgh Castle is perched on something incredible, the cold, hard heart of an ancient volcano. Yeah, about 350 million years ago, this was a spewing vent of lava. Over the ages, all the soft rock and ash around it just washed away, leaving this super tough plug of volcanic rock. I mean, what a perfect spot for a fortress, right? High above everything else. Then, fast forward a bit, and the Ice Age hits. Giant glaciers crawl across Scotland, but they just weren't strong enough to grind down this hard volcanic rock, what geologists call the crag. So the ice just flowed around it, kind of like water splitting around a stone in a river. And in its wake, it left this gentle, sheltered slope of softer stuff, the tail. And that tail, that's exactly where the city began. Now, that whole crag and tail thing was amazing for defense. But for actually living there, it created an incredibly difficult and, let's be honest, a totally disgusting situation for the thousands of people who called it home. By the mid-1700s, Edinburgh was literally bursting at the seams. Think about it. The city was trapped. You had the castle up on its rock, a palace at the bottom, defensive walls all around, and a foul, swampy lake. 50,000 people were crammed into this tiny space, all centered on just one main street. With absolutely no room to build outwards, Edinburgh had to go upwards. It created this chaotic jungle of medieval skyscrapers. And these buildings, they had everyone packed in together. The poorest people were down in the dark, damp cellars, while the rich merchants got the better middle floors. They were literally living on top of each other. And down at the bottom of the hill was the Nor Loch. Now, this was not some pretty little lake. It was the city's open sewer. For centuries, all the waste from those towering apartment blocks just flowed straight downhill into this stagnant marsh. The smell, the disease, it was just unbearable. The city was at a total breaking point. But just as the city was physically falling apart, it was intellectually exploding. This was the time of the Scottish Enlightenment, a boom of brilliant new thinking about reason, order, and progress. And all those new ideas led to a breathtakingly bold solution for the old town's chaos. The city's leaders, totally inspired by all this new thinking, decided to do something completely unheard of. They weren't just going to patch up the old town. They were going to build a whole new one from scratch. So in 1766, they launched a design competition, and the winner was a young, really ambitious 27-year-old architect named James Gregg. His vision was about to change Edinburgh forever. And this just shows you the shift perfectly. I mean, look, on the left, you've got the dark, cramped, organic mass of the old town. And on the right, the new town, this perfectly rational, ordered grid of wide streets and elegant squares. It was basically the Enlightenment made real. Logic, light, and reason all built in stone. And the people who actually built it, the stonemasons and carpenters, they were all about these new values, too. Their symbols, the square and compass, weren't just about their tools. They were like a public promise of precision, trust, and the amazing skill you were getting. It was a brand, really, built on order and reliability. So the key thing to get here is that this wasn't just some big construction project. It actually split the city's personality in two, creating this tale of two cities that honestly still defines Edinburgh's character to this very day. All the professionals and the wealthy families moved over to the spacious new townhouses, leaving the old town behind. And this contrast created the unique city that we all know today. A UNESCO World Heritage Site that's famous for having these two different sides. It became a major European capital, a center for government, a hub for the arts, and a magnet for millions of tourists who love its split personality.
And what about that disgusting sewage-filled lock? Well, in what has to be the most symbolic move of all, they drained it. The filth was replaced with the beautiful Prince's Street gardens we see today. It's this green, vibrant bridge that connects the two halves of the city, turning a place of disease into a place of unity. Amazing.
But the story of reinvention is not over, not by a long shot. Today, just like overcrowding was the huge threat back in the 18th century, Edinburgh is facing a new crisis that's going to demand another massive transformation. So, after surviving centuries of war, poverty, and disease, what's the great challenge for this historic city now? Well, it's the same one that's facing every single one of us, a rapidly changing climate.
The projections, if we stay on a high emissions path, are pretty stark. By the 2070s, the average summer temperatures in Edinburgh could go up by as much as 5 degrees Celsius. Just let that sink in for a moment.
And you can see the scale of that change right here. This isn't just a few more sunny days. It's a dramatic shift. It means more frequent, more intense heat waves, which will put huge stress on people, on infrastructure, and on all those historic stone buildings that were never, ever designed to handle that kind of heat. And it's a double whammy. You've got more intense, extreme downpours that will increase the risk of flooding across the city. And at the exact same time, rising sea levels are a direct threat to Edinburgh's coastline, putting homes, businesses, and essential infrastructure in danger. And just like it did in the 1760s, the city is responding with a bold plan. First, you have to understand the specific risks. Then, you adapt the city itself, from retrofitting historic buildings to handle more rain, to creating more green spaces that can soak up water. And finally, you innovate to build a greener, more resilient economy for the future. Which brings us right back here to the foot of the Royal Mile and the modern Scottish Parliament. It's such a fitting symbol, isn't it? A building all about the future, sitting right in the heart of all that deep, deep history.
Edinburgh's history is just this powerful lesson in resilience. It proves that cities can face what seem like impossible problems and come back with bold, visionary solutions. From a volcanic rock to an Enlightenment dream, the city has shown it can completely reinvent itself. So as it faces the climate crisis, the question really isn't if it can adapt again, but what that next great transformation is going to look like.